It's fascinating because we talk about these things sometimes like they're a consensus, right? Like, ooh, a lot of people are starting to. At the end of the day, only one person is going to make this decision, and that person is in Chicago. But Dan, I know you've said it to me many times. If you had the first pick in this draft and you needed a quarterback, who would you take?
Yeah, I would take Jayden Daniels. It's been that way since the moment I started to study this year's draft class. And the moments when you watched him be the best player in the field in multiple games, the Florida game, the Alabama game, the Missouri game. I think you have to ask yourself this, Greeny. If we are honest about the quarterback situation present day in the NFL, what are the traits or skill sets that allow the top 6 or top 8 guys to be the top 6 or top 8 guys on a consistent basis? Okay? Not the, oh my gosh, the jaw-dropping stuff. Stop telling me every guy's going to be Patrick Mahomes, okay? Stop. Number one, the decision-making. The decision-making is about how well you process information. What's my play? What's the defense? Ball gets snapped. What am I supposed to do with the football on a consistent basis? Jayden Daniels does that the best in this class. Number two, ball placement, not accuracy. Accuracy, throwing to your guys. Ball placement, throwing away from the defense. Okay, I get the ball. The coverage is this. It's tight in the NFL. Where do I throw it to get that completion in that moment? Jayden Daniels does it the best in this class. I think if we're honest about who the best quarterbacks are on a consistent basis, year in and year out in the NFL, and where these guys are, Caleb's unbelievably talented. Jayden's the best guy in the draft for me.
Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, QB1 is still Caleb Williams. And it's not just the 2023 tape, but you got to go back to 2022, the year he actually won the Heisman, when he had his number one wide receiver in Jordan Addison. And I keep hearing when we talk about Drake May, how he didn't have certain wide receivers last year in 2023. But we can make the same case for Caleb Williams as well for 2023. But also, I'm going to go back to 2021 when he was a freshman at Oklahoma. Just coming into big-time ball games in one of the biggest rivalries in college football, not being a starter, but being asked to come in on fourth down and make plays with his legs, being able to step up in the pocket and throw a touchdown pass to Marvin Mims and putting the ball, placing the ball only where his guy can catch a touchdown. Those are the things that I like when it comes to Caleb Williams. And if you're Ryan Poles, you're in a situation where you have to do your due diligence on both of these guys, right? You have to grind that tape out, not just 1 year, 2023, but from the moment these guys stepped onto the college football field and find any and everything that you can. And he also has a leg up because he was the director of college scouting when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs when they drafted Patrick Mahomes. So if you see any kind of similar traits in these guys, then you got to make that decision and go ahead and draft who you feel like is best fit for the Chicago Bears.
As you can tell, there's a lot to be said about this, and I'm going to save some more time for this a little later. The Draymond thing was something we didn't expect to sort of blow up last night. But at the end of the day, is there any reason to believe that the Bears are starting to change their minds here in the way that Dan Orlovsky and Louis Riddick and many others have changed theirs?
There is not, but they're still going through the process. Remember, they spent 3 days with Caleb Williams in Los Angeles last week, trying to get to know him as well as they could to feel good about the pick. He still has not made his top 30 visit to Chicago, which means he still hasn't had a physical. They're not going to draft him without that. So keep an eye on what happens. It's still possible something unforeseen could happen to move the Bears off of Caleb Williams. But right now, there's no reason to feel that way.
Totals are up at ESPN Bet, and so let's play a game of more or less. Orlovsky, more or less 9.5 wins for the Packers this year.
I'm going to say more. This is a football team that obviously put a hammer down on the Dallas Cowboys and really pushed the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs. This is going to be a strength offensive line-wise. Josh Jacobs, the addition, and they got their young, talented quarterback. Incredible game experience, and you saw him just consistently climb. A much aggressive defense under Jeff Hafley takes this team more.
I'm totally with you. You're going to hear from Jordan Love a little later in this hour. Graz, the number's 11.5 on the Chiefs. What do you think?
I think it's going to be more. And look, I was ready to say less because that's a big number. The AFC is tough. They won 11 this year, but they went over this number each of the previous 5 years. I'm just done underestimating the Chiefs. Whatever they want to do, as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are there, I'll just say more. I'll pick them to win the Super Bowl. Keep going, guys. It's just a historic run. They deserve every benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, the operative number there is 15, more than anything else. Harry, 10.5 is the number in Dallas. Which way do you go?
I'm going to go less. I really don't like the moves that they haven't made when it comes to free agency. On top of, you look at their schedule and the opponents that they have to play next year. You do have the Eagles twice in your division. The Commanders are going to be better. I'm not worried about the Giants when it comes to the Cowboys, but they play the AFC North. That's the Steelers, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, on top of the Houston Texans, the 49ers, the Lions. So I really don't see this team winning over 10.5 games, so I'm going to go less.
You know, it's a little spoiler alert. We ask everyone their takes on these more or lesses, and Orlovsky, every single person on the show today went less on the Cowboys, 10.5 wins. This is a team that's won 12 games each of the last several seasons. Why do you say less?
Well, they have 5 starters that don't have positions filled right now. They lost their defensive coordinator, Greeny. I'll go to their offensive line, okay? They have one known quantity or person on their offensive line. Right guard, Zach Martin. Okay, Tyler Smith is on their left side. We'll see what position he plays. So you could sit here and tell me he's going to play one and be good at it. But that gives you at least 3 unknowns on their offensive line. Let me give Cowboys fans a truth serum here. You got 3 picks in the top 174 in the NFL draft. So you have 5 starters on your football team that have roles to be filled. At least 3 on your offensive line are giant question marks. You ain't only got 3 picks in your top 174 in the NFL draft. So they're a lesser football team. And that's what it goes back to the contract and Dak and what they're going to do. This is a football team that has lesser talent than they did last year, but greater expectations. That doesn't bode well in the NFL.
Plus, I'm 100% in agreement, plus a quarterback and a coach for all intents and purposes going into the final years of their contracts. So it all adds up to a lot of drama. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight for this, right? They're going to be underneath this Dak contract until and unless they get something worked out. And everywhere I turn, I hear people saying they're not going to get it done.
Yeah, I don't think it actually makes more salary cap sense to wait until next offseason to do the extension.
Right.
Because right now you have a $55 million cap hit this year, but also a $40 million cap hit for next year when he's not currently scheduled to be on the team. So that's all dead money. You'd have to probably add to that if you did an extension now. So they're very conscious of that. They don't think the cap's going to go up another $30 million next year like it did this year. So if they can take the bigger hit this year and absorb that pain this year, that would be their preference. Obviously, as Dan is going to point out, that raises some risk, right? Because as you get closer to his free agency, that's a higher risk of losing him. But the Cowboys believe their relationship with the player is such that they can do this. And at this point, barring some significant change, I would not expect a Dak extension until next offseason.
Go ahead, Dan.
Question, Grass. You keep saying next year to do an extension. Am I right to say he would be a free agent? If he plays the end of this season to the end of this season, he is a free agent no matter what. Now, he could re-sign with Dallas. Am I right to say that? He's free?
Well, they would be the only team that could negotiate with him up until March 15th or whenever the league year starts. So they would still have that time to do an extension before anybody else could make him an offer.
Just like the Vikings did with Kirk Cousins.
Correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
My thing with that is this. Dak Prescott plays this year, no contract extension. He's going to play good to really good. If he repeats last year's season and plays top 5 MVP level football, okay, but they don't win the NFC Championship, he is going to be a $65 million quarterback in Dallas if he stays in Dallas. He's just going to be. That's just, or he's going to walk. And that's why I sit here and, Graz, I know that number's outrageous. That's just what it's going to be. His agents did a really good job with this contract. They're going to do an even better one with the next one.
65's big. The 55's the top of the market right now. A $10 million jump in one off season doesn't sound like the NFL I know.
But the point remains, he's going to be an extremely expensive commodity, however you do it, and they're behind the 8 ball. Let me get Harry in real quick. Go ahead, Harry. 30 seconds left. Go.
Yeah, I just feel like if you're Jerry Jones, if you feel like Dak Prescott is the guy that can lead you to the promised land, then you sign him.
Well, he obviously
I don't know if Jerry Jones feels that way right now currently because he doesn't have the extension. But if you're Dak Prescott, you say to yourself, let me pull a Joe Flacco like he did in 2012 and bet on himself. Then you can name your own price.
That's the key point. You can't just say, well, Jerry should sign him. Dak has to want to sign it too. And his contract, as Dan pointed out, loads up the leverage on his side to the point where he doesn't have to do a single thing. He can wait. free agency is his worst case scenario, and that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, look, it's worked out really well for Kirk Cousins. That's the model. Kirk Cousins has made as much money as probably any football player that ever lived, and Dak Prescott is going to be right in that category no matter how it goes. Yes, he's an Atlanta Falcon now, and Harry and I both believe they've got a lot of winning to do. All right, we'll pause briefly.